know, Zoe, there's never anything on. Hey! Inner monologue? What are you doing here? You're hungry. I am? You want hot dogs. I do. You want a hot dog with an overly complicated topping that takes at least an hour to simmer on the stove. Onions? Yes. One full of onion and cumin and chili powder and spices and seasons. Beef and bison. It's actually not that complicated. We can make it in just about an hour. It just has to simmer for a little bit. There's a really interesting difference between beef and bison that, hang on a second, inner monologue. Hey, you guys want in on this too? Come on, let's go make some hot dogs. I'll tell you all about it. Yeah, sweet, let's go make some. There is no food quite like the Coney Island hot dog. It's this amazing amalgamation of a delicious hot dog and non-traditional chili just put together on a toasted bun with onion and mustard, and it is pure deliciousness. And if you've ever had one, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And that's why I wanted to talk about it today. The Coney hot dog has a special place for me. And with the rise of the different kinds of meats coming to supermarkets, I wanted to look at a traditional Coney dog and then also kind of experiment and see where we can go with it. Now, if we're going to talk about Coneys, we of course have to talk about the history of the hot dog. Hot dogs go back to 1867, where most people agree a guy named Charles Feltman invented them on Coney Island. But he had a guy that worked for him named Nathan Handworker, and Nathan, encouraged by his friends, went out on his own and undersold hot dogs. Instead of selling them for a dime, sold them for a nickel, and put the chili sauce on them. Because his shop was also right next to a subway station, Nathan's Coney hot dog just became famous instantly. And that's actually how we get Nathan's hot dogs today. I should also mention Nathan's is not sponsoring this episode, but they're really missing out. But the Coney dog has become part of America. Now, I mentioned before we want to play with it. My grocery store where I shop has started to get things like bison and Wagyu beef just regularly available on the shelves. It's insanely more expensive, but because it's becoming more common, I wanted to start to look at bison in some of our normal recipes. Now, there is a difference, of course, between bison and ground beef. Bison itself is incredibly lean. It's got a really low fat content. It has a different texture. It has a different flavor. It's really quite delicious. It has a finer grain to it. Ground beef, of course, we all know and love. Stay in there. Has a higher fat content, a different texture. But both of these put together into a chili are going to be really interesting. Now, for the most part, we're going to cook these nearly identical. The only difference is what we're going to see in just a second. So the preparation of these sauces is going to be nearly identical. There's just a couple of small differences between the two. On this side, we've got our ground beef, and on this side, we've got our bison. Outside of that, every other ingredient is going to be just about the same. If we look, we've got about 1/8 of a cup of mustard on each one. We've got, I had to cheat and write these down because I couldn't remember exactly. We got about 1/2 teaspoon of paprika, a teaspoon of cumin, a teaspoon of chili powder, about 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, an entire diced onion, a whole small can of tomato paste. Now on the beef side, we're going to add 2 cups of water. The bison side is where it gets a little bit different. On the bison side, we're actually going to add a whole can of beer and then the rest with water. I'm actually really excited to see how these turn out. I love Coney Island sauce. I've made it a million times before. And these spices here are just what I found to be the general, this makes a really good sauce. Feel free to tweak these. Feel free to add more cumin or less cinnamon or more chili powder. Some people like to add celery seed. By all means, make the sauce yours. This is just the one that I found works best for me. All right, now we need 2 small pots that we can cover, which is interesting because we have a whole variety of pots that have been given to us by friends, family. Some we've bought ourselves, but I don't know if we have 2 small pots that have covers. This will be fun. All right, what we got? No, that's a big one. That one might work. That was IKEA. That's a big one. That one's too small. That one got no lid. That one's clear. What is back here? Mr. Tumnus? How do we not have two pots that have lids? We've got this clear thing from the 70s, which I don't even think they make anymore. What is this? What is this? Cast aluminum? Doesn't this thing give you, like, brain disorders? We might have to go buy a pot. Well, after the search for the pot that ended all things, we found another pot. So let's get going on this. So the process on these is going to be completely identical. Cooking coney sauce is as complicated as throw it in the pot. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to take every single ingredient, throw it in the pot, mash it all together, and let it simmer. Beef, onion, garlic, chili powder, cumin, cinnamon, mustard, can of tomato paste, and finally 2 cups of water. Now, if you find that 2 cups of water isn't enough, that's totally fine. You can absolutely add more. If you feel like it, you can add some stock. That's also fine too. You basically just want to make sure that once the meat is all chopped up, that everything is covered. Now, I will use the weirdest potato masher in existence. Start mashing the meat and mixing everything together. Once the meat is mashed, you can make your assessment. I personally feel this needs a little bit more water, so I'm going to add some more water on top before we get this going. It will be slightly reminiscent of pink slime, but once it cooks up, it is not going to be anywhere near pink slime. Oh no! Nothing. Just going to add some water, about half a cup at a time, until it gets the consistency I'm looking for. That's about where I want that one to start. So we will turn that onto medium to let that slowly come up to simmer boil, and once it reaches that, we'll turn it down to a simmer and just let that sit. Now, onto the bison. Same exact thing. Get in there. Bison, chili powder, cinnamon. No, that was cumin. That's cinnamon. I'm a cook. Paprika, garlic. You notice I'm adding the stuff in backwards on this one because it doesn't matter how you add it in. It all gets chopped up and mixed up and sent to the great Coney Island place in the sky. Mustard, tomato paste. Ooh, I'm tomato paste. I'm made from San Marzano tomatoes. I am the paste that you want to eat. But shall I leave the can? No, I shan't. I shall remain in the can for all time. And the beer. All right, let's get this one mashed. And if we need to, which I really feel like we will add some water on top of this. Now, already you can see a difference between the ground beef and the bison. Again, because the bison is so lean, you're pretty much just getting all meat in here. So this one already has a darker, richer color to it. I'm really curious to see how that plays out once everything is all cooked up. You pretty much know when you're done mixing, when you no longer feel resistance from everything as you're pushing your spatula or your mixer through. All right, once everything is set to simmer and cook, we come to everyone's favorite part of the day, helping the cook wash dishes. So, you're all gone. Cool. All right, so it's been about 2 hours, and these guys have been simmering for all that time, letting all that goodness kind of marry. So let's check both these out. Let's start over here with the beef. Now, the beef, as we stir it up, we do see there is a little bit more fat on the top, which is kind of, it's beef. It had more fat. But it also has a more open, wider texture. It's got that good chili look, that nice heartiness that I think is going to work really, really well with these hot dogs. Now, let's head over to the bison. Now, this one is interesting. When we stir it up, the meat itself has a much denser, much grainier quality to it. almost closer to a dough or a wet sand, which I think is going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. Now, these two also have quite a good set of smells to them. They are similar enough, but they're just different enough that I really, based off of smell, can't tell. As you can see, we've got the hot dogs boiling. Everything looks ready, so let's give it a shot and see. So, I've made the hot dog in the traditional way, which is the Coney sauce, the onion, and mustard. And that is how I love my Coney. Now, to save hot dogs, because we have friends here and I don't want to eat all the hot dogs, I've actually split the Coney sauce on here. I've got the beef on this side and the bison on this side. So, let's start with the traditional beef. See how it is? The beef is everything you hope it could be. It's got an amazing, subtle flavor that plays really well with the hot dog. The fresh onion and mustard on top just dance off of it wonderfully. It's traditional Coney sauce at its best, and oh, I love it. Now, the side I'm really excited to try. Let's check out the bison. So the bison is good. It has a deeper, more subtle flavor. I think cooking it in the beer actually brings out sort of appley note to it, which works really well with the cinnamon and the cumin that we put in here, and dances wonderfully with the hot dog. Really, I don't know if I can pick between the two. You know, I know we were supposed to have an example to show, but I ate it because it was good. So that's Coney sauce. Two different ways, actually. Coney sauce is just a great, relatively easy way to make your hot dogs that much better. And it's not just hot dogs that it can go on either. You can put Coney sauce on homemade nachos. You can put it over spaghetti. You could eat it just as is. It's a wonderful, versatile, amazing dish that just is fun to play with and make. And doing it with bison actually did teach me a lot. The different flavors, how the fat works. It's really fun. Now, both the recipes are going to be at the bottom of this video. Now, I had a lot of fun, and I ate quite a bit of Coney sauce, which just brings up one last thing. Hey, inner monologue. Are we happy? Happy? We've never been happy. Are we full? Yeah. I don't know how to take that.